At The Container Guy, we get an inquiry a day from people wanting to modify shipping containers and then send them all across the planet. This here, we've finally done it. We have modified this entire container and haven't poked a single hole through the envelope. It was very difficult, and on top of this, the customer was extremely fussy about the fit and finish of this thing because it's the show model for their very expensive equipment that's going inside of here. So this here is a lab unit. I got Dawson here because he's the engineer behind it and he knows way more than I do. So in this video, we're gonna give you a tour of it. Stay tuned. Hope you learned something. Dawson, please give me a tour because I know they want to learn and I also do.
All right, the first step to modifying a container and not poking any holes in it is they wanted a man door, so we put a man door recessed into the container. So we installed a removable partition wall that is no longer removable, and it has incorporated into a door, a hatch for loading and unloading specimens, and an AC system and heater, and an HRV for providing ventilation to the unit.
One thing that's really cool here I want to say is he just showed me, I didn't even know, this hinges upwards and downwards. So and then also you can pull it right out. So we can remove it entirely. This is great for, a lot of times we've done exploration units for way up north in the Arctic where they put them on exploration skids and skid them all through portages and across frozen lakes and stuff. But they need to pass through all their core samples through a small enough hole because it might be the middle of winter and they got to heat this thing, but they also need an opening. So yeah, awesome for that. It's a really cool design, really refined design, and I'm glad I had the engineers on board to come up with that one.
All right, we can go inside and kind of show what's going on in there. So on the inside, they wanted a lab grade finish. So we went with our standard reline, and instead of having all the wiring mounted on outside of the wall, we had it recessed into the wall. Custom panel board setup where it allows us to run all of the conduit in the wall, spray foam everything, and then close it all out so it looks super flush and clean.
Yeah, this is really cool. And this is kind of the start of our hybrid method of running electrical. So we want to run certain amounts of conduit in the wall and pull wires, but then also we can pop out of the wall and actually pipe things in afterwards. This one's very recessed. I think everything pretty much other than the light fixtures. So you can see if you look up the lights, the first one probably has power running through the ceiling somewhere, and then we'll just pipe across. That's a great way to do lights whenever you're doing it. If you wanted everything recessed in the wall just like this, still run your light fixtures with conduit in between if you're wanting this industrial RAB style fixture that we have here. Tell me about the end wall, because this is really cool too. So this is a double door container. So this is a 20-foot high cube with doors on both ends. And so we can, from the other side, open up the doors. This is a finished wall. That's a removable wall, but how did you make this work?
So this wall is two separate sections. There's a small section that's permanently mounted and a large section that's removable, so they can slide their equipment right in here when they get delivery of this container.
Is it on the back side?
Yeah, on the back side we have all the bolts. So you remove the bolts around the outside edge, and then this wall will pop out. They can install their equipment, which gets plugged in and basically takes up the majority of this container.
And it runs a ton of data, right? So we have a data port, and then obviously just looks like a dryer plug or something, a 240 volt.
30 amp, 240 volt plug to run their equipment, and a data plug. So there's two strut channels that mount the equipment to the wall, and then there's a big frame that goes in that mounts it to the floor.
That's what's cool about the strut strap method of framing. So we can use strut channel on each one of these. We can hang, or we could hold 2,000 pounds against the wall on each individual one or more, especially if the weight is transferred down to the floor. But then in between these, we can run steel studs again with our steel stud brackets. So now, where if we were just to have to do a whole bunch of panels this width, that would suck. And so when we can do a full length of the PVC wall panel here, it's just as fast to install this one as this one, and we get so much more square footage done in one poke. So that's awesome, and it's something that we're doing on our GLO, our ground level office kits.
The panel is recessed as far back as we get it and still have insulation behind it. And it allows us to run all of the conduit piping in behind through the spray foam. So it comes in and ties into all these plugs that are mounted on the wall, the light switches, all of the plugs on the front wall there for their emergency evacuation lights and AC and HVAC systems. Makes it look really clean on the inside, so if they need to scrub this thing out to keep it laboratory grade, it's not a problem. It's like a 10-minute job instead of having to get behind every little nook and cranny.
So this here, and again, a lot of times because everything's white, they'll try to go to like a a home line panel, but we really like to go to the industrial grade panels for industrial purposes. But let's jump to the other side and show you the back side of this partition wall because it looks pretty cool.
All right, this is a packaged terminal air conditioning system. So it's kind of like what you'd see in a standard hotel room, that sort of thing. So what it does is provides your AC and heating for this entire container. Using our little thermostat here, it sends a signal to that thing, tells it what their demand temperature is, and it will set it to whatever temperature that they require. In the summer, it will be AC, it will recirculate air through it, cool the whole area down. And in the winter, it will pull outside air and heat it up and keep the inside the right temperature.
Does this have enough BTUs to heat this whole thing?
Yeah, this one has enough BTUs to easily heat a 20-foot container with 2 inches of foam.
And we don't need a baseboard heater as redundancy. And I think this isn't really going to the Arctic or anything, right?
No. This one shouldn't have any problem keeping this container cool or warm.
I guess through the YouTube channel, some people want us to do this stuff, and it's getting, shipped across North America for sure, right?
I think across North America and maybe into South America for some jobs.
And will it be on a boat, or what are the methods of transport that?
So this one would probably be shipped on a cargo ship. They'd take it to the port, they'd throw it on a ship, get locked down with the rest of the containers. Then when it gets to the next port, they take it off and truck it to wherever they need to have the equipment.
One thing to note about that is if you're having to put a shipping container on a ship, this is a one-time use container. So it has been manufactured recently within probably a year and a half. And the CSC plates on the doors, they're good for 5 years. So you don't need re-inspection until that CSC plate certificate runs out. Sometimes with shipper-owned containers, they still want survey certificate, just someone like myself to go over the container and ensure that there's no structural damage, but I don't need to give it an IICL recertification. But if you're trying to do all this stuff on a used container or a container that's older than 5 years, you're gonna get an IICL recertification on that unit, probably only gonna last a year, maximum 2. And so if you're planning on shipping this often all around the planet, you're gonna have to keep doing that. And once it gets to South America, an issue is potentially you might not be able to find someone that's certified to do that. You might not be able to ship it back. So it's always best to try to use a one-time use shipping container, have provisions in place if you're trying to get it to Australia or other more remote parts of the world where you probably don't have a ton of the licensed or certified people to actually put it back on a boat.
So on this unit, we also installed ERV because equipment in here will be generating some fumes. So it basically pulls outside air and conditions it to the same temperature as the inside air and then adds it into the envelope. So you get to keep all your temperature that you've built up or taken out with the PTAC, and you don't lose it, and you get fresh air into the container. And it keeps the people in the container happy and stops them from being poisoned by whatever fumes are being generated.
And this here, it looks like a ceiling fan cover, in my opinion. I thought maybe it was meant to be mounted horizontally, which I imagine it is, but it can also be mounted vertically, you said?
Yeah.
I never would have thought of that, putting it into the wall. But so many times people insulate shipping containers, or we get comments, I want to ventilate my container and I want to spray foam. And it's like, those two things don't really actually go together. If you're heating the envelope or air conditioning it and you're spray foaming it, you don't really want just passive ventilation, something like this where it's just leaking all your climate control out. So, but you do want ventilation. So you install something like an ERV or an HRV that recovers the heat or the cooling that you've paid money for to have that luxury of a climate controlled building. The best option for any kind of tiny home out of a container to give yourself some fresh air inside of there. Maybe one day we could even build some sort of a frame that would allow this to adapt right to the outside corrugations, just like our windows or our doors.
Yep.
Maybe jump to the other side. So let's open up the other set of doors and just show you what that partition wall looks like, and we'll send you on your way.
So this is the basically end wall cover. So it just goes right into where the door ring ends, blocks off this door essentially, so that when they have their equipment installed, it's like there's not even a door here, but they'll open up the one side so they can plug in their generator, and then they can also pass samples out through this side. Yeah, so when they want to remove this wall, they're going to take out all the bolts around this entire ring and then push it from the inside, and it'll pop out, lay it down, move it out of the way, and then put their equipment in. And once they have their equipment in, they put this wall back in the same way it came out.
That's pretty cool. It's intuitive, and this is just rigid foam in here, not spray foam, right?
Yeah.
And it's just sandwiched between a couple chunks of galv, so not quite as good of a vapor barrier, but industrial purposes, get the job done. Very similar to how just the steel door that's on the container. It's just chunk of foam surrounded in steel. So same R value as what a normal door would be, One thing to notice on this, some containers have this, some don't, but a little pro tip is a lot of times they just kind of gusset the top corners with a flat bar. I think that just stops the container from racking, I would suppose. And some manufacturers do it, some don't. In the instance that this is on your shipping container, and if you had like the wall flashing kit from us that goes with the door flashing kits, you might have to notch the kit a little bit for that, just as we did here. So they probably didn't provision for this in the model, and that's something that was field fit. Held it up and realized it was colliding. That pretty much there wraps up the tour of this thing. If you want to watch another video on us building this, I think we'll separate that from the final tour because it's got lengthy as it is. Thanks Dawson for giving us the rundown, and good job on the mod. Still got a few things like painting it bright red, which we'll see what that looks like. So there you have it. I hope that was an informative tour and you got to follow us along as we do another really cool mod. If you want to see more, subscribe to the channel and ring the bell for notification. And as always, check us out at tcg.ca. Hope you learned something.